Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Shannon Hogan Cohen, author of SHE, She, Share, Heal, Empower. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Are you ready to get started?
I am. I'm excited. Let's do this.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Gosh, there's so many things I'd love to share, but considering our timing, I'm going to come out with just the first things that come to mind. First and foremost, for me, it was being patient with the process. During the process, for me, I described myself as flailing forward with jazz hands. I don't know if you got that imagery, but that was me. So I learned that I just had to understand that it's a constant zigzag. And within my mental bandwidth, I had to stay focused, really having goals with the finish line of finishing this book. Obviously, for me, the book is a collection of 24 stories of women, all ages, all cultures, from around the world. So it was easier for me to finish it in the sense that I had 24 women, and then I paired 24 artists to help keep me, motivated and responsible for both their stories and artwork to get it done.
Well, in the minute you mentioned jazz hands, I was thinking Bob Fosse.
Yeah, exactly. That was me, truly. But it's great. As I said, I wouldn't change anything. I learned a lot through the process. I learned to be perfectly imperfect through the process as well, that there's going to be errors, there's going to be things that come up, and you just have to roll with it and consider it all a learning experience.
Yeah, there are two mantras that I always like to teach my clients. One is don't be afraid to take the plunge, and two, done is better than perfect.
Well said. Well said.
Or as they say here in the South, get her done.
Get her done. I like that.
So let me ask you about your process. So you did 24 stories and 24 different women and their journeys. So were you taking like the journalist approach with this and going through a Q&A? What was your process?
I did. I was fortunate to be introduced to just an assortment of women, women that I had met on my travels, women that I knew in my life and wanted to celebrate and honor, also women that came into my circle from other women who recommended them. So I would sit down with these women face to face, and the interviews lasted from 4 hours to 2 days. There were tears, there was happiness. It was a really great experience. And when I sat with them, excuse me, I would take notes and record the conversations, and then I would go back and write the stories. So the story structure is actually set up in a sense of the first part of their chapter is more a journalistic approach, where I set up the environment, the scene, if we ate anything, if we laughed, little quotes that they had said that were impressionable to me, give you, the reader, a little bit about them and their environment and who they are as people, and then I would transition into first person, and they would be reading. When you, as a reader, you're reading their stories if they're telling it to you. So I wrote it in first person, which to me created more of an intimate connection with the woman, especially since some of the stories were pretty involved.
How long did it take you to get all 24 interviews together?
I know you're not going to judge me, and I know your listeners won't judge me either, but the whole process from finding the women to interviewing and also writing the book was about a year. And that's also pairing each of the women with an artist. So it was, from start to finish, about 1 year.
Well, I can tell you, there's clients that I've worked with have taken decades to get their books out. So doing that in a year with all those interviews and sharing their story, I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes I look back and I think, wow, that was really fast. But again, I think it got to the point where it was outside of me. Something else was kind of moving me. And as I said, the women were motivating me, the artists were, and it just kind of took on, it shape-shifted and took on a life form of its own.
Well, let's talk about the publishing process. So what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, for me, I felt really strong about staying true to the stories of the women, and I didn't want to change the story structure in a sense of, as I said, from the journalistic intros to the first person storytelling. So I was fortunate to be in touch and have contact with quite a few different publishing houses, but they wanted it more of a Q&A kind of format. So I wasn't willing to compromise that, and I ended up going the indie publishing route. And I was happy with that decision because I was able to kind of stay in control of what the stories were and honor the women for who they were. I know there is sometimes a stigma that's attached to indie publishing, but as a first-time author, it was a learning process for me. And if I had to do it again, I definitely would explore my options in the mainstream, market with publishing, et cetera. But it was a great experience for me. There were times I wish I had a quote unquote book shepherd to kind of guide me through the literary playground, because it was hard to navigate at times, but I got through it. And it was, like I said, it was a good experience, a learning experience.
Well, and a lot of things are changing. There are more and more books now that are going through the indie route. And I think the main thing is, as long as it's a professional book cover, has a great title, a strong subtitle, which you clearly have with Share, Heal, and Empower with She. But the most important thing, and this is the one thing that separates indie publishing from traditional publishing, and that is just making sure that you have a well-edited book. And I think that's really the main difference. And as long as you have that, then it doesn't matter if it's indie published or traditionally or hybrid. The main thing is getting your story out there, because people want to be able to connect with you. They want to hear these stories. And clearly you have 24 amazing stories that you're able to share with your readership. And the most important part is that you kept the creative control, because going through traditional publishers, you lose that. And let's face it, most of the times, with the exception of Random House, really, those traditional publishers still expect you to do the lion's share of the marketing. So why not do it yourself and have that creative control?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you saying that, because it does affirm exactly what everything I was feeling at that time. But in the end, as I said, I can say that now, but 6 months ago or 8 months ago, there was a struggle with, do I compromise creative control? Do I, sell myself, so to speak, and the stories? And I'm glad I stuck to my gut and stayed true to going the indie publishing route.
Well, it's funny you talk about book shepherd. I always joke around with my clients to say I get to be your Yoda. The only difference is I'm 6'3".
I love it. Hey, everyone needs a good guru in their life, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
Oh, wow. I might be a little bit all over the board with this, so be patient with me. But in short, for me, my marketing strategy has always been, it takes a community to create a community. And because I went the indie route, I didn't have a big publisher behind me with, reader reach that's expansive. And so it was more of a grassroots, organic style marketing for me. And really that speaks to my personality. It speaks to what the book entails. The conversations, the interviews were organic. So I'm really happy that I went that way. I was fortunate to find some great influencers, social media, who promoted the book for me, just traditional word of mouth and networking, as I said, just personal relationships, having book events to book clubs reading the book. It creates a little bit more work. And just partnering with on-the-ground organizations that supported, my mission, my platform. And again, it's ongoing. It ebbs and flows. But and I'm continuing to learn, and I'm still in embryo stage. It's only been less than 6 months since we published, so we're still trying to fine-tune our marketing strategies.
Well, in regards to the different organizations, which organizations did you reach out to help with the promotion?
Well, I have some local women's group here in San Diego County. I've been in talks with Girls Inc., the director there, to some women's funds locally, the Women's Museum of California. So there's some organizations that are, again, with the same mission of women supporting women, and we're in talks of how we can build and cross-pollinate each other. So it's exciting.
And then you also mentioned about speaking at workshops. Is that correct? Different those type of events like public speaking.
Yeah, there's a few that are in the pipeline that they want me to come speak, but we also, which I failed to mention, all the book proceeds are actually going into a foundation that I started called the She Foundation, which is all about giving back to women and girls, both locally and globally. And so when you say workshop, the first thing that comes to mind to me is we're actually going to be implementing, and our goal is to next year do these after-school programs with young girls in middle school and kind of continue on with that storytelling and a circle time kind of sharing and swapping of stories. So that's another thing, that it's not about me per se in the book. It's about making a difference in storytelling and carrying on with that as a spirit of.
I love that. I was a teacher for 9 years, and 3 of those years I ran an after-school program out in Birdville, Haltom City area here in Texas. And I love the fact that you are going to be helping out potentially with after-school programs, because that's one thing that kids need more than anything, and offering that type of mentoring and sharing those stories.
Yeah, in a safe place to share. I mean, that's kind of what even these circle times for women that we call, whether it be a book club or these Shiro events, where it's just a group of women getting together. And yes, it's about the book, but everyone has a story, Paul. You have a story, I have a story. And I think when we come together, that's really the hope for me about this book, is to inspire people of all ages to share their stories, but learn from each other, because those little morsels of wisdom that we can glean from each other are priceless.
Absolutely. Everyone has a story in them, and it's just getting that story out there and sharing it with the world.
Indeed.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, I definitely have an addiction when it comes to books. I have so many of them, but I think the one that I have to say would be that my all-time favorite is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Its message is about following your heart, and I'm a big advocate of that. And so when I read that book multiple times, actually, in my life, it spoke to me in different ways. And I have 2 teenage boys, 18 and 19, who actually have read the book as well, and it's their favorite book. So it transcends time and generations, but just learning those life lessons along the way, paying attention to the signs, or omens, as they're talked about in the book, that life places in your past, people that come into your life. It's just about this universe conspiring and helping you, and you helping yourself. It's a goodie for me. That's probably my favorite book.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
again, so many. But I think I'm gonna give you two. I know I'm not following the rules, but
No,
that's
give
the
us
story of
two.
my
Give
life.
us two.
But I don't know exactly how it goes, but I think Marie Curie is the one who said it. Something to the effect of nothing in life is to be feared, it's only to be understood. And writing this book and just living life, which can be, a constant zigzag and confusing and, very scary at times. I think, just don't fear it. Just go out there, live it, and try to understand it the best you can. So that's always been a quote that's been dear to me. And I don't know if this is a quote or if this is just wisdom that's been passed down from Plato to the philosophers. I don't know, but be kind. Everyone we meet is fighting a battle. And I've learned that through this process with the book is, we all have wounds and we got to turn those into wisdom and be gentle with everyone because we're all doing the best we can.
Shannon, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
The best way to find me online is through our website, which is www.sharehealempower.com.
Shannon, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Paul, and good luck to you.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.